like you still have more to do, say, hell yeah. I know some of y'all always wanted to cuss in church. Welcome to Wellspring. Yeah, all right. I just wanted to make y'all feel comfortable, and since there's already been various phrases and expressions that have gone forth on today, I just wanted to make everybody know that that was accepted by the pastor. So that's why I stood in solidarity with all of the grief porn. And what else did we say today? I just was watching some of y'all, you know, F whiteness, just kind of watching some of y'all. Y'all like, oh, you kept looking up like that cross means something. It does to some of us, and to some of us it means different things, and that's the power of and the promise that, if I may take a point of privilege real quick, that makes up this space. One of the reasons we, I think, were at least accepted or acknowledged as a welcome or an appropriate or an available space in this community before, during, and since the events of Ferguson was that we were not so skittish or pious or aloof or uncomfortable or discomforted by how people see or speak or needed to be in this place. And at least for us theologically, our God is big enough, bold enough, brass enough, all that enough to deal with all of what we are, how we are. And so that's why we give allowance for such things, so that the truth may be heard and that our authentic and real selves as we are can be met with that which is promised or offered to us of what we can and what we are invited to become. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to share everyone's courage. Thank everyone for their courage today, for being here and for sharing. It was not on purpose or for any other reason than the fact that it just is, it just laid itself out to be. But I am so glad that sister friend Gayle Fisher-Stewart is here with us on today. She brings a very unique perspective to this podium and to the work that she does. She herself has her own center of study of faith in the Washington, D.C. area. She, by her bio, carries some unique experiences throughout life that she is now using to help to inform and educate and advocate in some very profound and productive ways. She is very modest, so I'm going to say it because she ain't going to say it. She is recently awarded and distinguished honoree of the degree of letters from the Colgate-Rochester Divinity School just this past commencement season. And so they only esteemed her with what we already knew, was that she is somebody's expert, somebody's leader, and particularly she is a servant to the kingdom. So I'm excited for her to come in her own way. We celebrate the Reverend Gayle Fisher-Stewart, who will come and share with us at the time. Amen. Welcome her.
This is the day the Lord has made. We will. All right, amen, amen, amen. I am really glad to be here, glad to accept the invitation to come. I was here 2 years ago with Heidi and the young adults from the Episcopal Church on a pilgrimage, learned a lot. But even before that, I learned something, in that you never tell the Lord what you ain't gonna do. Yeah, never tell the Lord what you ain't gonna do, because I retired from full-time policing. I retired as a captain on the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. in 1992. And between 92 and say 2005, 14, I kind of consulted with police departments and taught criminal justice. And then I finally accepted the call to this thing, right? And I said, well, good. I put all that police stuff behind me, sold all my books, gave them away, And so I was serving at Calvary Episcopal Church, where I am the associate rector. And Michael Brown was killed. And so I went to the senior pastor and I said, you know, we are a historical Black church. And we know this stuff goes on in the Black community. And there is no way we cannot not say something about this. And so we had a forum, and the name of the forum was Ferguson, Could It Happen in DC? So we gathered the community and law enforcement officials, and everybody agreed, you put the police and the community together with the right combination, and any place can blow up. And so I said, okay, well, now I've done my thing. I'm gonna put that behind me. And I said, no, you gotta keep on. And so my presentation is repairing the breach, because there is a breach. There's always been a breach. The police are the public and the public are the police. That phrase was coined by Sir Robert Peel in 1829 when he formed the Metropolitan Police Department of London. He said the police and the public are the same. They are the same. The only thing is that the police come from the public in which they live, grew up, went to school, maybe had a job before, and take on the task of protecting, securing security for their own community, because the rest of us don't want to do it, right? How many of you want to go out there and push a scout car and walk a beat? And so people from our own community, our own communities, our own neighbors say, we'll do it for you. But something happened when that mantra came across the big pond to America, because every police officer learns that in the history of policing in recruit school, there's a breach. And so I'm going to spend a few minutes just kind of telling you what the breach is and how we need to repair the breach. And I bring a perspective, as my sister Victoria said, of several lenses. First, I'm a Black female. I have a son. I was a police officer, and now I'm a priest. And so when I see things, I see it through those four lenses, and I can get into some deep discussions with myself. I don't need nobody else, because I can go here, then I go back over here, and then I straddle that thin blue line going down here. But there are conversations that need to be had. Former St. Louis police officer Jason Stockby is on trial for first-degree murder for killing Anthony Lamar Smith. He claimed that Smith had a gun and that he killed him because he feared for his life. Okay, that's, whenever you hear fear for my life, let me tell you now, that's a lie. Okay, that's a lie. It's similar to when police officers are on the stand and they're asked a question. It's either yes or no, right? And they say, I cannot recall. That's a lie. So I fear for my life is a lie, right? Plus, they said he's denying putting down, planting a gun on the body. That's a lie. How do I know it's a lie? When I was a police officer, I didn't carry a throw-down weapon. I mean, I didn't carry a throw-down gun. I carried a switchblade in my boot. Because my training officer said, if you ever kill somebody by mistake, take the switchblade out and lay it down beside the person and say it was theirs. And so I don't believe that he did not plant the gun. He was taught to do that. And so this afternoon, I'm gonna ask you, can we talk? Can we talk? Are you sure? I might say some things that offend you. I might say some things that will cause you pause. But the thing is, and I'm gonna throw this out now, that American policing, as we know it, and as it was created, needs to be abolished. It needs to be abolished. It needs to be abolished. So I'm gonna let that guy sit for a moment. David Grossman is a former Lieutenant Colonel, Army Ranger, who teaches police officers around this country. He has taught more police officers than anybody. And he has this theory of killology, which he says police officers need to get comfortable with killing, that it is dangerous out here. Basically, you need to shoot first and ask questions later. And the course is called A Bulletproof Mind. Now, Dave Grossman lives in Missouri, 45 minutes from Ferguson. Now, of course, I tried to find out where he was while I was here. It won't give me the information. I'm gonna have to pay the $29 to do that background search to find out where he is. But you got it? There you go. But he teaches officers, he teaches police officers. And while police chiefs will say, we don't send our officers to this course, they will also say, we don't stop them from taking his course. And so he says in his course that after you shoot someone, you will have the best sex you will ever have in your life. That the sex is going to be intense for both partners. And so you need to lay back and enjoy it, because it's one of the few perks in policing. So your first assignment is to find out whether or not any of the police officers who patrol your area, your town, your city, your community, have taken a course from him. It is said that the officer, Geronimo, you know where I'm going, right? Who killed Philando Castile, was one of his students. Shoot first, ask questions later. And so the system of American policing as we know it and as it was created needs to be abolished. And this is why, because it was not created to serve and protect everybody. It was created to serve and protect the financial and property interests of the financial elite. In the North, during the 1800s, because if you look, a lot of the major city police departments were kind of in play by the 1860s, 1870s. They started out like in 1840 with some of the first ones. And in the North, you had people coming from the countryside to the city, bringing with them the need for jobs. Just as now, folks don't want to pay a fair wage. They were not paying a fair wage back then. They were working, the workers, they were working in dangerous conditions, long hours. And so the capitalism of our country created this wage earner class that on occasion revolted with strikes. Okay? And so the police were formed to tamp down strikers. The miners in Pennsylvania, steel mills, they were formed to tamp down those who rose up against the capitalists. And to contain and control the new immigrants coming to the country, the non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, to control them. In the law enforcement in the South on plantations because it was plantation justice, right? But you needed some folks who could go up and round up those folks who said, I am not anybody's property and I'm gonna take myself away. So you needed slave patrols, slave catchers to bring them back. One of the earliest police departments, Charleston, South Carolina, we actually have documentation where the slave patrol morphed into the city guard, which morphed into the city police to protect the property of the slave owners. And so after slavery was abolished, guess what? There's still cotton that needs picking, right? Isn't that going to itself. Isn't that going to plant itself? Isn't that going to weed itself? So we still need workers, particularly in the South, right? Now, cotton was king everywhere. Cotton even drove the capitalist society in the North and in England. Cotton was everywhere. But in the South, you still needed workers. And there weren't enough white folks who wanted to pick cotton. So you had to create a system where you got black folks back into slavery, but you call it mass incarceration. And so laws were developed. Laws were put in place, like vagrancy. What's vagrancy? Oh, you don't have a job. No visible means of support. I just got off the plantation yesterday. Where was I supposed to find a job? Right? And so these laws enabled the police to lock up black folks, put them in jails, and then the plantation owners would come and bail them out, take them back to the plantation. Now you got to work off the fines that the plantation owners paid, right? So now you're back into the same system. They participated, police, and it's interesting how the police can uphold unfair, unjust laws, but can't uphold laws that are fair and just. Even today, when you look at the so-called riots, let's call them rebellions, uprisings, what side are the police on? Are they on the side of the peaceful protesters? No. But the thing about it is that no police officer that I've known gets up in the morning and says that he or she wants to kill somebody or violate somebody's civil rights. They try to get rid of all of those before they raise their hands to be sworn in. Police officers in this country are victims of a bait and switch. And sometimes I say that the police officers today are as much a victim of the American system of policing as those who are in our jails and those who are dying on our streets. Because most of them, 99% of them, come on and they want to do good. But that system seduces them, draws them in. And when you work in a society that sees people a certain way, you also begin to see people that way. I remember as a recruit officer, we were patrolling a section of DC which was predominantly white. And since I was a rookie, I was in the shotgun seat and had to wait for the veteran officer to let me drive. So I'm just sitting there going like, I really want to drive, I'm tired. And this was the days before you had to have any reason to stop people. So we just stopped people because we were bored as hell. Excuse me, Pastor. But anyway, we were bored. Okay, we were bored. And so he was stopping folks and I was halfway paying attention, but then it got to be my time to drive. And I stopped a car. And he said, why'd you stop that car? I said, because I wanted to. His remark to me, which kind of set the pattern for me in terms of policing and how I saw it, was this: we don't stop white people. And I'm saying, okay, maybe he's colorblind because he don't know who's sitting in this driver's seat. We don't stop white people. So what kind of people do we stop? And he kind of looked at me and turned deep red. So for the rest of the 4 hours of my time driving, guess who I stopped? Every white person I saw. He was so ticked. By the time we got back to the station, I thought I'm gonna lose my job. I've only been here like, a hot minute. I'm gonna lose my job because he's my training officer, which means he had to evaluate me. But the police out here carry on those values and traditions of the society in which we live. And the society in which we live says that the black body is dangerous. Darren Wilson said when he saw Michael Brown coming toward him that he saw a demon. He saw a demon. How do you get from a human being to a demon? But black bodies with hoodies, young kids, they are viewed suspiciously and their bodies are criminalized from the womb. And so American system of policing as we know it needs to be abolished, because we've been talking about reform since the 1930s. Since the 1930s. And in 1967, how many of you seen the movie Detroit? Okay, if you haven't seen the movie Detroit, you need to see the movie Detroit. Okay, you need to see the movie Detroit. Now, I know they take some literary license, but you need to study up on it, what happened, and then see the movie and compare and contrast. But that summer, 150 of our cities blew up in 1967. And as a result of that, we had the Kerner Commission that was formed by President Lyndon Johnson to look at what's wrong out there. And out of that, we had the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorder, which published a report about that big. I mean, they wanted to know what happened, why it happened, and how to stop it from happening. Of course, we know in 1968, a year later, the cities blew up again. But from that report, it said that we needed to fix a broken police-community relationship in 1967. And for those of you who are not as old as me, I know that's ancient history, but I actually have a copy of the report, okay? So it's not history, it's my life, okay? The second thing was to end the militarization of the police in 1967, end the militarization of the police. The third one was to recruit more black officers, because it was thought if you got more black officers and they looked like the people they were policing, things would be a little bit easier. And then we went through this whole thing of becoming professional. Policing is not a profession. You can act professional, but it is not a profession. It is an occupation. It is a blue-collar job. Okay? So come up to 2015 in the Task Force on 21st Century Policing, President Obama's task force. There were 59 recommendations and 92 action items, but those basic 4 were in there, saying we still need to do the same thing. Because we have looked at this, we have tried reforming. In the early 70s, after the 60s, everybody had to take race relations training. Then there was sensitivity training, and there was diversity training, and then there was cultural diversity training, and then there was multicultural training. You know, we keep having these trainings, and now it's implicit bias, right? So for all of these years, we've been telling the police, you need to understand the people you are serving and protecting. We realize that's not what it was. So now we go into the academies and say, you bring stuff with you that gets you in trouble, and you need to understand what it is, which only goes to upset the police officers. Now you're saying it's my fault. It's my fault. So we've been in this business about 80 years of reforming the police, and we haven't gotten there yet. Body-worn cameras. Good thing. We see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It can reduce complaints, but it can also do a little strange stuff like in Baltimore, where the officer didn't know that it recorded like 30 seconds before it actually told him it was recorded and caught him planting evidence. We have consent decrees. Detroit, Chicago, New Orleans, Baltimore, all over where the Justice Department says this is what you need to do. In Baltimore, that report still the pattern and practice of violation of civil rights. But you have to ask, what is in the mind of a police officer who can do heinous things to people? I just finished reading the book Ferguson Policing America by former Chief Jackson. Number one, I have a problem with the title. Policing Ferguson means you're doing something to Ferguson, right? How can we do heinous things? Because nowhere in Chief Jackson's book was there a recognition that a human being was killed. Even when Michael Brown's name was mentioned, it was disembodied. It was disembodied. And so how can human beings, and we can, in the church we call it sin. I say sin's a cop-out. You know, devil, they made you do a darn thing. You chose to act in this manner. Because in Baltimore, and this is a vivid description of what happened, a woman was stopped allegedly for its headlight being out in the daytime. Okay. Get her out the car. She's asking why. I was listening to her sister was asking all the questions about, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? I'm thinking, yeah, no. Keep on, I'm gonna lock your ass up. Because you're ticking me off, right? I am the law. You need to do what I said. And so the senior officer, who was male, there was a female officer who was second. He told the woman, we're gonna search you. We're gonna strip search you. And she said, strip search me? Out here on the street? And he said, yeah. So he ordered the female officer to start removing the clothes of the woman out on the curb in full view of everybody. They perform an anal cavity search on the street. So how do we know that happened? Number one, after her embarrassment, she had enough, like, no, I'm going to report this. And she went to the station. Of course, folks are saying, yeah, right, that never happened. They sent an investigator out. They found a purple latex glove with her DNA on it still in the street. So they found that the complaint was valid. This was the punishment for the officer who ordered the search. He could not patrol until he went back through training. He should have been locked up. Right? How do you do that to a human being? And that's what we have to start asking. How do you do that to a human being? And so what we're seeing with the cameras, we're catching officers, and this is the thing, the officers are being caught by their own cameras, right? Dash cam, body cam, they're being caught with their own cameras. And yet there's no accountability. There's no accountability. And so what is the role of the church? The role of the church, the police are to serve and protect. The church, if we follow the mission of Jesus in Luke 4, is to serve and protect. And so as our responsibility, we need to be asking questions. We need to find out how many officers have gone through Dave Grossman's class and where are they? We need to be there. Definition was given about politics, but politics is also about the decision-making process that allocates scarce resources, allegedly scarce resources, to the people. And since we are in the church, it's about the decision-making process that allocates God's resources. Therefore, we need to know how they're being allocated if we need a reason to get involved politically. Because all of this is God's. And we need to be involved in the decision-making process. We need to be involved in the oversight process of how all of this is being managed for God. And then the title, The Injustice of a Just Us Democracy. That's an oxymoron. You can't have a just us democracy. It ain't democracy if it's just us. I got it. See, I got it. It ain't democracy if it's just us. And what has to happen is that the church has provided safe space. Because I can talk about everything I did, because statute of limitations ran out 20 years ago. But we need to create safe space so that current police officers are willing to do some truth and reconciliation, because we cannot repent and go in a new direction with policing until there is confession. You got to confess first, and then we can repent. And then we might be able to try a little bit of reconciliation, trying to get the police and the community back together again. But until there is confession, it is not going to happen. And the church is where we can create the safe place that you can tell us, because I can put on a purple, I can put on a purple sash, purple stole, priest penitent. I can't tell anything, but I can work on you. After you tell me. That's the role of the church and faith institutions. Because if we don't do it, there is no incentive for the police to change. If there was incentive, they would have changed 80 years ago. They would have changed 50 years ago. This is the 50th anniversary, the last week in July, the 50th anniversary of the Kerner Commission. And if we go through those recommendations, we say, ain't nothing changed. It's nothing changed. And so that's our mandate. If we're going to deal with all of this, if we're going to hold vigils, if we're going to have prayer meetings, services, what do we do once we get up off our knees? How do we hold the police accountable? Because they are our neighbors, they are our congregation members, and in a whole lot of cases, they are our pastors. They are our pastors. But then they put on the blue and go back out there. And so my charge to you, find out about the enforcement, and then put some heat on the police, because that is what we're called to do if we follow the mission of Jesus. Because Jesus says, I'm here to serve and protect. And if you follow me, you too will serve and protect. Thank you.
Amen. All right. Well, we're going to ask those that were on the second side of the program today to come up here as we did. We want to give some space to your questions. Amen. Amen. I'm a preacher, so you have to forgive me. It is so. That's what that is. But if we got chairs coming, they'll take care of you. So just come on up, Sister Sheppard. Dynesha. Hope you don't mind me calling you out of your name. Yeah. And Victoria, I'm sorry, I guess I could grab a chair. All right, so if you have any questions and ruminating in your spirit for our presenters on the second? Yes.
So I apologize because my question is almost like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So the question is for Rev Stewart. I hope I'm getting it correct. So you left us, for me, your provocative presentation left me wondering about the role of the church, because you insert the role of the church as one of the resolutions. In my mind, though, just historically, the church has not always been an honorable place. In fact, I was reading an article this morning about the evangelical church and the role of the evangelical church in the political systems as we now know it, and some of the problems. I'm being very kind to use that word, problems. So we look at the church to be part of the resolution for policing in America. Are we actually, is that, I guess some churches would be helpful, but very often I'm finding in my own research that the church is part of the problem because they're training people with these biases and actually supporting bigotry. So I don't know that I'm so comfortable with the church just because of its history. And so I think I'm wondering more about cultural, in a kind of cultural way, can the church be helpful? For instance, I'm thinking about with Black police officers. You know, how can the Black church, how can churches of color help police officers who are very much so like you talked about, you know, a trainee or minority representatives on the police force? How can the church empower them to do the right thing?
Perhaps I should have made myself clear when I talk about the church. So perhaps I should have made myself clear when I talked about that church that tried to be inclusive. But you know, when we look at the mission of Jesus and we go back to the historical basis of the Black church, missions were one and the same. And so although we probably can't look at all Black churches, as we can't look at all churches, there are some churches that are willing to do the hard work, and we have just one church that is willing to take on that mantle and do it, then it's a start. You know, so it might be one church in an entire city, but that's the one that gives the chief heartache. And again, it doesn't have to be a Black church. It's just one that is steeped in the mission of Jesus. Because sometimes that gospel message gets all out of whack. Okay, but if we go back to the message of Jesus, then we can do something. And providing a safe space for them to come in and talk. Because a lot of times you will find Black officers who know that something is wrong, but they don't have a place to talk about it. Because they know that their safety depends on the other officers out there. So creating a safe space for the conversations to take place. The faith community, yeah. The faith community, right, the faith community. Anybody who wants to be involved in the struggle, the faith community.
Thank you for what you said. From hearing you immediately as you talked about the church, and it is the mission of the church, and that is where it starts. But as you were speaking, the word was, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways, seek my face, then will I hear and I will heal the land. And that's what it's going to take. I'm privileged and honored to God first, but even to the speakers on the panel today. But just to hear that this church, this place, is sovereign in doing what with the community, the empowerment of the social justice, for everything that's going on here right now is taking place. But the real thing is, number one, start prayer. Prayer. It's time to pray like never before. Just keep praying, and as you said, step out and to be empowered by the things that you know, read, study, find out what it takes to motivate and to start. But also, just one more thing, as for my family, my big brother is the sheriff of the county here. All of my nephews are St. Louis police officers downtown in St. Louis, and to encounter one of them getting shot by another officer because of his color, and not knowing that they had to step up and say, he's an officer, this is Officer Green on the ground, and yet still to face that, and to see that they grew up, and we all grew up as pastors and bishops and in churches, but yet still serving in the justice system, it still caused him to get shot. Not because he wasn't doing the right thing, he didn't have his uniform on while he was laying on the ground. So just in that, I'm glad to take place and to be able to come into our home. And I'm sorry, I feel Wellspring is my home. I live here. So I just feel that to hear what I'm hearing, it gives me a better view to accept more, to do more, to think more, and then follow our mission. So,
I've got a question for Victoria. Because you wrote a poem kind of remembering a historical event. So I would just like to hear a little more about how that process was and worked as you're kind of like personally processing a historical memory?
Thanks for asking such a simple question. How did that happen? So I went to SLU for college, and I did an English major, which if you're not super familiar with the English department at SLU, which I don't know why most of you here would be, it's kind of an arbitrary question to ask anyone. I learned so much about Chaucer and Shakespeare, and I didn't read pretty much any Black authors until I went out of my way to find courses out of the two options available in order to learn African American history and literature. So I went through sort of a self-education process during my graduate degree. And I looked at a lot of different works, and I won't try and go into all of it, but Paul Laurence Dunbar was a writer that I really resonated with in a number of different ways. The sense of bidialectalism, so being able to use very rural African-American vernacular English in one set of poems and then turn around and write some Shakespearean sonnets in the next set of poems, was something that was very exciting and interesting for me. And so it got me interested in looking more at where are these early Black literary points that I need to be looking at if I'm going to be generating art as someone of color. And so that's a long-winded way of saying I was doing some Black research when I was in grad school. And somehow through the trenches, I learned about Mary Turner for the first time. Do I need to reiterate that story for anyone in this room? No? Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. I was that person. I'm still that person. I won't get into all the gruesome details. It's not necessary, but this was a woman who was 7-8 months pregnant and was lynched, and her baby was removed from her body and she was set on fire. And like I grew up with media, and the 4 or 5 sentences it took for me to garner all of that information set me back a ways. And mind you, this is maybe 2.5 months before Pulse happened. So there's a lot going on in my brain at this point. I'd gone through also an artistic period of pretty much only writing about myself and my minority experience, which brought me to, I think is something that she brought up in the very first segment here about sort of checking your own privilege as a minority. Okay, like I can carry around my queer brown woman card, but I gotta recognize that I'm light-skinned and grew up in a wealthy family in a white suburb. There are a lot of things that I don't get. There's a lot I don't get, and I have to recognize and check myself in being in a space in Ferguson, right? I have to recognize that about myself. And so I took that story as an opportunity to do some historical research for my own benefit and also start generating art about other people's experiences and experiences that, while they may be triggering for me to a certain degree, they are even more triggering for my dark-skinned sisters and family members who are still living in the South. Does that answer your question? Okay. No, I'll pause there.
Hi. I'm Kirsten Stables, for those I haven't had a chance to meet yet. I almost don't even know what to say because each one of your topics has just affected me on a deep emotional level. Rev Fisher-Stewart, we were talking last night about, I grew up quite like Professor Wallace, child of an attorney / judge in, Black people on the street on a very wealthy neighborhood in South City, went to private Christian schools with folks who had elevators in their houses, et cetera, et cetera. So I did not have the typical Black experience, I'm not going to say Black, but the typical experience of neighborhoods who have been over-policed or have their rights infringed, et cetera. I married into a police family. And I got the benefit of that during our dating and marriage. And he was, my father-in-law was an elder in the church, A&E church, as well as many other colonels who were in the department. And then I saw the power and the camaraderie that I'd experienced as an insider turn against me when my ex-husband became physically and emotionally abusive. And that created a rude awakening and also an intense distrust. And I lost a child from it, not in the traditional sense of losing a child's life, but in losing a child through family court. And so, so everything you said was like, I never processed or put all of those feelings or heard them even packaged together. Like I'm sitting here like, and so I'd love to have your notes, actually all of your notes, if possible, and just thank you so much for the work that you're doing and how it's just so enriching to see how each one of these discrete areas intersects with each other, and that we can all have our subject matter expert areas, but realizing that we're all a piece of the tapestry. So I have one random question for Professor Walls. You mentioned that you are half Arab and half Black. Do you consider yourself to be half Caucasian? And there's a reason. There's a reason for your question.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I was having a conversation about the Arab/Caucasian thing fairly recently. The way I feel about Arab and Caucasian being lumped together on government paperwork is how I feel about people who still refer to East Asians as Oriental. It's a designation that's created by whiteness and supremacy, and so I don't ascribe to it. So when I'm filling out anything that has to do with my identity, I simply mark Black. I don't do Caucasian. I don't claim the like 0.888043% that qualifies me as Native American. I identify as a Black woman. But even in saying that, part of the reason that I guess I mention the Arab side of my ancestry is because I don't personally feel comfortable saying to a person, let's say like, this is a good example. I had a student this summer semester who grew up in East St. Louis. Now, she and I have conversations and we identify as Black women, but what that means to me means something very different to her and vice versa. And I don't feel comfortable claiming something that I can't claim in certain ways. And being Arab, having that part of my identity is the foundation for everything I do in the way that I move through the world. So if the question is, do I call myself Caucasian? No. I don't get sunburned. I can go out in the sun and I have glowness in my hair. I don't call myself Caucasian by any means.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I hope I didn't put you on the spot.
No, you didn't. I'm really glad I got to say this in front of a bunch of people. I've been waiting on that. Go ahead.
And it really speaks to, so for those of you who don't know, and I did not know this until I was investigating a case for a friend of mine who's accused of racial discrimination on the job against a woman who was from Egypt. And I was shocked, dismayed, confused to find out that the legal definition, the legal racial classification for people who are of Arab descent is Caucasian. I was like, what? So the one drop rule could work to what?
What mental gymnastics do you have to do in order to get there? Yeah.
And I'm not sure where that issue fits within the discussion of like social justice and whatnot, but it's a great example of how disparities exist. I am genetically 54% Black, 36% white, some portion Native American, and it'll probably change as they test more people of color. But I can't claim that almost half of me that's not sub-Saharan African. But people who are browner than me, people who have more woolly hair than me, whatever, are legally considered Caucasian. And that just smacks of WT blank, what? I just don't get it. So anyway, just food for thought. Thanks.
Just quickly to you, Kristen. Well, when you say Egypt is an Arab country, that's already confusing since it's in Africa. But all I want to know really is how to spell Dan Grossman's name.
Dave Grossman, and he has a website called Kilology, Kilology. whateverology process. All right, we got one more because Katie.
Thank you all for being here. I resonated a lot, Dr. Sheppard, with this public grieving. And after Pulse, my group called Justice Beats sat on in the Grove for 49 days, and we drummed every night because there was something about needing to be in public and experiencing this grief in a communal way. And just being out here today, experiencing the grief all over again of being here 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, and now. And it just feels like we haven't done enough of that. And I wonder, what more can we do so that we can begin the process of like scratching the surface of this trauma and pain? Because we will continue to like never heal from this if we don't sit in that. So I just wonder, what else can we do?
Thank you. I think one of the things that we can do, we've sort of heard from everyone in certain ways. One is through the artistic voice, research on this man, whose name I'm not going to say now. I think that our grief cannot just be grief, that it has to take up shape, maybe not in an institution per se, but in actions that become regularized, so that we sort of don't pop into our grief and pop into cultural and community trauma and then jump back out. Last January, I did an in-service for undergraduate students called Hanging In for the Long Haul. That's what our work has to do, make us be in it for the long haul and join with others who are doing the work that we believe needs to be done. It's not just, I think I was trying to say, it's not just the expression of grief. It's not just owning that, but discovering the work of the grief beyond the self in the community.
Well, I agree. I think it does need to become a part of kind of what you do. But primarily because this is not a grief that is distant and far away from us, but this is about who we are and our existence. And it's hard to separate our existence and who we are from something that happened. And so becoming ingrained or engaged in things that feed you, that feed your spirit, feed your soul, and that allow you to release. So in the very beginning, when we started the sessions today, immediately to my mind, what came to my mind was, wow, protests is a form of trauma treatment. It is an opportunity for a bunch of people to gather together who have been injured and harmed and traumatized and release. For some cultures, they don't need to scream. They don't need to shout. They're not expressive. That was not a part of their DNA. But for many people of color, that is a part of their DNA. That is a way that they have communicated. They told stories, shared narratives. They were physically active. They expressed themselves through art forms, dance, shouting. When we go to our churches, a big release is the shouting. And so being able to protest, to be seen, to share an experience with others, and to find those communities. I thought it was beautiful that you said for 49 days it was, that you all sat and drummed together. You put into the environment, into the community, in the atmosphere, what you were feeling, what you were thinking, and it was a collective experience. And I think that's important. This stuff doesn't go away. And when I meet with people, particularly African Americans, we have a problem
with naming things, and particularly when they're around our mental health. We tend to minimize it. Some of that has nothing to do with us. We've been excluded out of a whole area so that we wouldn't get services, benefit from services and resources. But it's very important that when we're hurting, that we reach out to a collective. And, you know, thank God there's a collective who is hurting alongside us and willing to go through that journey with us. And it sounds like you have some of that. I would encourage you to continue to do that. Not do it alone.
Thinking about connecting this morning with this afternoon and this notion of universalizing is creating invisibility. And thinking about when we talk about grief and rage, righteous anger, and how part of what's happening now in progressive communities is I'm going to express my outrage on social media and feel like I've done something. And I'm going to be very proud of myself for talking about how offended I am and how outraged I am by whatever. So I'd like to ask, I mean, this is a question for all four of you. How do we continue to highlight the difference between outrage that would be an invisibilizing force of so-called universality and allyship, to understanding and really being able to hold the grief, rage, righteous anger of those who have been targeted, persecuted, and made invisible?
Well, so to some extent, I think everybody has to start somewhere. And so there's a part of me that says, if you as an ally are willing to expose the people in your social media circle to a thought of pain that you experienced, then please do so. I think historically, people have been able to walk away from pain because it hasn't been them who has been oppressed. And so, again, a part of me says, I welcome this. If this is your, first step, your first entry into being a genuine and true ally or standing in solidarity, let me guide you to your second step. Let me help you understand what it is to put out, I stand in solidarity with the people in Ferguson, and then to close down your Facebook account and walk away from that and hang out with your buddies who are disconnected from that experience. There's another part of me that experiences the anger and the pain and the rage that says, how dare you? How dare you take a piece of my experience and exploit me in a particular type of way and have the privilege to walk away from it and not live it. In my community where I live, it's predominantly white. In fact, we're the only Black family that lives in my community. And I remember when the Black Lives Matter signs were being passed around. I remember I took it home and I told my husband, I'll put this in our front yard. He said, wait. You might not want to do that. I said, well, everybody knows here that we're Black. It's very obvious. He said, but we don't know what they believe. We don't know how they think. And quite honestly, he said he didn't want to come home with the N-word on the side of our house, spray painted on the side of our house. And so there's something about being able to remove yourself from an experience that people who are oppressed, discriminated against, experience prejudice, racism, don't have that opportunity to do. But I invite folks who want to be allies to make a first step. I'm okay with that. I'll help guide you to the next one. But to recognize that I don't get to step away from my Blackness. And it's real for me. It's life for me. When I was sharing with you all the questions and the information that people, look up, and to this day, and I was driving here with the pronouncement about don't go to Missouri, just came up, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm driving to Missouri. I made sure before I left home that I knew the laws about identification, that I knew the speed limit. Now, who looks on Google to find out what speed limit to drive from Illinois, and does it change over? Just a heightened sense of fear. And so being aware that there are people who don't get to step away from it. But I do welcome folks, if that's their first step, come on in.
I'm going to go in a little bit different direction because the rage that people have toward how the Black body is policed, and then I don't say we need to abolish policing lightly. I say it grounded in the Declaration of Independence. We're going to use what they used to get King George off their necks, because there's a section in the Declaration of Independence, I have to go, we hold these truths to be self-evident, da, 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 da. It says, whenever there is any government that does not do what it is supposed to do for you, which is to make sure to pursue, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, you have the right, you have the obligation to dismantle it and then put in place something that works for you. And so it reminds me of Thurgood Marshall, who said, no, we're going to use the law that's already on the books to get what we need. And so to kind of have that rage, but then I can have that rage, but I have an outlet. I can use what's been used before, because the colonists, you did it, and then they wrote it, right? That this is what you're supposed to do. When the government doesn't work for you, you have the right to change it so it does work. So if policing does not work for us, we have the right, we have the obligation to change it so that it does work. So that helps kind of ameliorate that rage. We have a sense of history, a sense of precedent, that if anybody says, why are you doing it? No, this is what this country is founded on. We're going to use what was used to found this country as we know it. So we're not creating anything. It's already here. And we as citizens are going to take advantage of it.
I would agree with both my sisters here. I would also add that sometimes we have a tendency to become the caretakers of others who need to figure out who they need to be talking to. For instance, outside of a classroom setting, I'm not teaching anyone about racism, homophobia, how I felt because you disrespected me, my life, my body, my people. I'm not going to take that in. And I was thinking about you, looking up all that, which, I read that alert too. That is what you're talking about in terms of the lasting impact of trauma. Most of us think of events. No, this is the way in which being Black and a variety of other isms we can put out here, Black, gay, lesbian, etc., that inroads into our psyche can be lasting. And I think it is through protest and activism that begins to move out of our psyche in that way. That doesn't mean we get on the road and don't know where we're going. But it means we know why it is. It's not because I have an anxiety disorder. No, it's because we live in this place at this time. So that's not a psychological disorder that's in my head. No, that's a disordered society that needs to be disrupted, revolutionized.
So everything I could have possibly said has been said already, so I'm going to keep my comment very brief. I used to in talking to my friends who are white and cis and straight, especially around polls, I used to tell people, don't try to tell me about my experience, ask me about my experience. But then I sort of changed that narrative around the time of pretty much immediately after the election. I was at this meeting, and I think it was through like the socialist group of St. Louis, and we met at Foam, and it was very hyped up and exciting or whatever. And I just remember seeing these three older white guys get up on the stage and try to preach at all. KB knows what I'm talking about. They were there, starting to preach about here's what we need to do to get mobilized. Here's the kind of grassroots effort that we need to take on. It's time to get up off our seats and do stuff. And I'm looking around, and we're texting each other this whole time, like, were they awake the past decades, right? And so now when I meet new people and I overhear conversations where there's this genuine, doe-eyed pleading, how do I get involved and do something productive without white-splaining, mansplaining, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just tell people to just listen. I don't say ask questions anymore, because if you're asking questions in the first place, that means you weren't listening in the first place, and it's not my obligation to repeat myself. That's my feelings.
All right. Let us celebrate not only these, but those that have come before, and you for today. Come on, celebrate, say thank you. Well, just like church, we went a little bit over. So it's all right. And we got a whole lot of terminal degree people, so we get at least 10, 15 minutes grace, because y'all probably late class anyway. Anyway, but seriously, what we wanted to do today was create a space for some questions, and some reflection, some commentaries, and I think we've done that. I'll be very candid with you. The real deal was for me to get all these cool, great, gifted, grace-filled people in the same space, because I miss my family, I miss my friends, and I need to be reminded and stimulated about what is next, okay? And so while I know everyone may not be able to make the time to maybe reconvene with us tomorrow morning for about an hour or two, I do want you, before you leave, to make sure you do all the exchanging that you need to do. If it's okay with you, as well as those who have participated, we had you register or sign in. We kind of have some of your contact information. If we are respectful with the use of that, we want to share it within reason. At least your email, at least that's something you can govern. And just make sure that we are giving a surmise, a recap, and share whatever we discuss going forward with you who are part of this new network. The idea was to come here with your own experiences and work and witness and see how we link it together so that we continue the work, not only here locally, but many of you represent this region or elsewhere in the country. You have some valuable resource, not only that has been before you on this dais, but also you who sit in these chairs. You are candidates and leaders in higher ed yourself. You're budding, if not ongoing professionals or practitioners yourself. You're theologians in residence, and even as you're seminarians and ordinands in process. All this stuff, if you're not doing it at a particular level, you're doing it at some level and in some way. And we want to be able to mix match and share that together. I hope before you leave here today, if you haven't already tweeted or did something on social media, that you would do us the privilege, the honor to do so. I just got a text from one of our usual public relations persons who was telling me about all the hits that we got on media today, and we didn't really send out a media advisory. We were trying to be the event, because that's just not what we do. We have a whosoever mentality. You were here because it was ordained, it was made possible, and so now that you're here, you've got to leave and take this with you, but don't be selfish in sharing it back with us. So I want to invite you tomorrow morning at 9:30, okay, yeah, for staff, people, team members, people whose checks I sign off on. That means you need to be here at 9 o'clock. Not 9:05, not 9:02. Okay, and we'll be here, and we're just going to spend a little bit of time kind of brainstorming, thinking about what's next, because there's some work that we need to do, and more importantly, now that you've come here and you've heard and you've felt and you've been helped by those who've not only presented but by each other, now we've got to support each other. So part of that means how we get to Nashville in September on the 28th. Come support our sister friend. Amen. Those that are able, you know, I know you're like, you paying? No. But there's a number of things that we want to do. And then if I can, before you leave, if I can have all the presenters, again, just stay back for just a second. Love to do that with you. All right, all hearts, minds clear? Oh yeah, tonight, I'm sorry, Raymond, you told me. Again, social media information and all that good stuff is on the screen here. Tonight at 6 o'clock, we'll be here for a brief time together for prayer, reflection, for support, for the outpouring. We might as well leave this here. I love the libation piece. We can do that again. Is that all right? We invite you and the associate pastor of Wellspring to do something at that time. You didn't already have plans, did you, Rev Dr? Yeah, that's all right. I told her a long time ago. She assisted. Really, she can have the place if she wants to. They might appoint her. You never know. This is Missouri. We're doing a new thing. Bishop Farr would love to hear that. Am I still on Facebook Live? But come back tonight, 6 o'clock, and we'll be here for just a minute or two to share. And then I guess you want to tell the rest of it. Okay.
Just quick announcement. Since we kind of ended with a question where we're talking about allyship, right, and how we can start to like be aware and listen and do these kinds of things. So if you are kind of on that first step yourself, or if you know someone who's on that first step, our event tomorrow evening, Calling for Kinship event, is a great event for those who are kind of like figuring out their first steps, or, okay, I know I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. So please share that